You might not believe it, but life used to be a lot more straightforward. You opened a business, you served your customers, you paid your bills, and tried to build a good reputation. Today, we're looking at insurance coverage as an example of a much bigger question. And that is, in a world that keeps getting more complex, how do we stay informed, protected, and confident without having to become experts in everything? I definitely feel that things are more complicated, and yet things are more complicated than ever, and at the same time, technically simpler than ever. If you had gone to me in high school and said, there's going to be a day where all you have to do is tap your phone on a cash register and you'll be able to safely pay for something, I'd say that's crazy. Or if you told me, I don't know, that you literally would be able to order food from every restaurant, that, that would be, I wouldn't believe you. But at the same time, life does feel more complicated in terms of things we have to learn, in terms of problems that come up, in terms of differing technologies, and then also in terms of trying to help people along who are resistant to change.
How long ago would you not have believed those things?
2005?
Okay, so in 2005, suppose I had said, hey, all this internet stuff we're doing? There's going to be some really evil people out there that are going to try to misuse it and scam people out of trillions of dollars. And some big businesses are going to leverage it for their own advantage to the detriment of society. Would you believe that?
Yes. I don't know.
I absolutely in 2005 would have believed it.
Yes. Maybe, but I was in high school, so I feel like I might have been a little bit
more optimistic
to say,
naive.
Well, certainly.
You hadn't got those street smart shit.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say,
if you had only had episode 45 back then,
I would know. Well, but we were always told that we were said, all right, the climate situation's bad, but we have faith that your generation's going to get it figured out. That was the message that we were given.
What they didn't add on the end of that is, but we're not going to give your generation any kind of power until our generation is dead.
Yeah, exactly. and therein lies the complexities of a system that isn't quite working, but it's the one we have, and trying to figure out how you're supposed to talk to people and at the same time be truthful. It just feels like every day you're walking through a hornet's nest.
I feel like the phone made life way more complex, right? Because you have social media, you have all this information. I mean, it's the internet too, but you're walking around with all this information at your fingertips, and you see big gaps too of people that are in the know that use it, and then people that don't. I just feel like it got more complex.
I think on that point, and I was thinking this, I was driving home yesterday. I was fuming as always. I was,
what were you mad about?
Just being in a car on I-10.
Oh, okay.
I just hate it. And
he was mad that he had to leave work.
Yeah, I was so mad. I couldn't just.
It's like, God, I got to go home to friends and family instead of staying with my loved ones.
I promise you, I'm the only one in the building when I'm the only one. But anyway, what I was thinking, and I paused and I said, come on, dude. People back in World War II had it way worse. People back in the days whenever you had to wake up and hope that your water won't kill you and all this stuff, they had it way worse. Why are you complaining? But then I sufficiently self-aggrandized again, and I realized what the problem is. We have too much stimulus. No people in history have had more stimulus thrust in their face than we have. Now, granted, I would choose the stimulus over scurvy. I would choose the stimulus over the bubonic plague. But it's a grand experiment of what happens to the human animal if you're flashing constant stimulus at their face. Either it's content or advertisements or news
Or
bulletins.
text message from friends and family, and they get mad that you don't respond in 1 hour. Sorry. Dude,
Yeah, it's a shout
but
out.
there's nothing specific
Yeah,
about that at all.
Yeah, shout out to Kevin. Kevin, we're getting around to it. We're going to respond. But anyway, I that was just my moment of saying, hey, you know what? We are unique in that when they were hunting down woolly mammoths, I don't know, I'm sure that didn't happen. But when cave people were developing, they didn't have to deal with a million ads in their face, and they didn't have to deal with a million, different things 24/7 the moment they wake up.
I think it goes back to more like Maslow's hierarchy. So when you talk about your needs and feeling safety, there's like, am I safe right now? So am I getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger or not? And if you are, all of this other stuff becomes academic. I need to run, I need to climb a tree, whatever it is. And then you build up from there, and then do you have community and do you into self-actualization? I think what we're finding is we're past the physical needs stuff. We have food, we have shelter, we all have that. Self-actualization is a lot harder than we thought it was going to be.
yes.
And it's not just this foregone conclusion. It turns out there's just as much work to self-actualize as there was avoiding the crocodiles or avoiding the whatever, the velociraptors or whatever was hunting you down.
Yeah.
Well, I have this thought that comes into my mind every so often, and it kind of baffles me, and I don't know why. Like it just, I can't figure it out. I'm like, I think about my dad in his career, and he sat at his desk, and there was no computer in the early days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do? You know what I mean? Like,
you
like,
yeah.
like how crazy of a thought that is to sit here and go, okay, I'm working today. What are you working on? What are you doing? Like,
have you watched Mad Men?
oh yeah,
They're just doing that, just screwing off.
Well, so what do you call the things that are on your computer? All those like words, whatever Word produces or spreadsheet.
Sure,
What do you call those things?
I mean, you have
What's on your
documents.
Documents and
Right.
and then we have documents and we put them in as we order
Folders.
folders, and we call all of the we call
Sure.
those documents files, and
And I get
so they did all the same
Just
stuff. They
way
just
slower.
way slower, and
I need to
But-
figure something out.
except I will say, because you only had one source of truth, because I didn't have 19 copies in 17 different formats processed by, in this case now today, 9 different AI models, I had one sheet that I saw that told me, hey, this is the truth. This is what I have to make my decisions on. So every number counted. Every piece of data in there, I would question or ask, is this right? Is this, because it had to be right. And I would almost argue that more care was taken to make those decisions because now I can fake it.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
And
I
I'm
mean,
not-
imagine thinking about running your business. So here's a great example, because this is happening today. You are in charge of our analytics.
Right.
So how much data, right? Just how much data do we have for analytics?
It's overwhelming. amounts.
Overwhelming, completely, way too much. Doug Ensley, owner and CEO of Indoor Media, runs all the sales department really rolls up to him. He runs the entire company, for the most part, off of a printed out sales log.
This is true. I've
And-
seen it.
And how many times have you gone into a meeting with Doug and he has a number that you don't, and you can't justify his number, and then it turns out he's right?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's what they were doing. They were being
100%.
right.
They're being right.
And drinking in the middle of the day.
Martinis. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
While
So-
smoking a cigarette, and
I know.
And being
Sexist and
Yeah,
everything else.
racist.
Yes.
So I'm going to, like we said, we're going to kind of parallel this to the insurance industry, where I'm going to talk about an experience that I had. I was hit, my car was hit, and it was not my fault. And it was the first time I ever had to do a car insurance claim. So I felt like I did not have street smarts at the time. I felt like a little lamb lost in the woods, and I was not sure what was going on. And so I get hit, and then I have to give information to the police officer, and then I have to go to then we had to go to the police station, and we had to wait for everyone to clear us to go. And at that point I go, okay, well, they say that you should go to the emergency room if you're even a little bit hurt, but I have stuff to do and I'm afraid that I'm going to get billed. But I know technically, because I have full coverage, that that they would bill. And so I had to make a call and I had to say, all right, no, I'm not going to go to the emergency room because I don't.
So right after your accident, did you call your insurance company?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one of the first things that a lot of people don't realize. Somebody hits me, I don't call their insurance company, I call my own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a huge step forward in your process just right there. You were way ahead of the game.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Well, and part of it is paying so much for full coverage.
Right.
I was like, certainly they need to know about this. And I will say, and they're not a sponsor, but I used Geico, and I was pleased with the process with Geico's process. But and I don't think it's anything that they could change, but the process was complex. After that, I did talk to a personal injury attorney, and then I had to connect them with Geico.
Right.
And so there was numbers, figures that they needed, approval that they needed. Then there was the matter of the car itself. So the car gets taken to an impound, and then I have to coordinate with Geico to find that impound and go and get it. Then there's the matter of reimbursing me for, gap insurance.
So let me ask you, I mean, so there is a lot there. Was that a process that, to navigate that process, did it really take good management and time commitment and follow-up? Or was the process itself very convoluted and complex and confusing, where there were lots of choices and you had to do so? The difference being, hey, if I'm a diligent person and I follow steps and I keep calling, I say, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do now? You can get through that, because that doesn't really require a huge amount of complex. I wouldn't call that a complex process. It may be arduous, but not complex. Versus they say, okay, well, you can either do, your policy has a subcategory B, and do you want to execute this subplan, or, whatever they have to do?
So I would say it's more that the steps to me were not cryptic. It was clear what the steps were, but because I had never experienced them before, I was kind of defensive every step of the way. To be fair, I was just hit by a car, but every step I said, am I doing this right? And to your point, I did have to be diligent doing the things. What was beneficial is that my agent and their app and their technology was pretty clear about what the next step was.
Yeah.
This was information that, had I not had a good adjuster communicating with me, I was by myself, I would never. It would have taken me a lot longer to actually figure out what it was.
And my guess is that you were constantly worried that if you missed a step, you'd miss out and then you'd owe money.
Absolutely. I felt like every step was compounding. I needed to get this taken care of to get this.
Did you feel like they were kind of like, they might be trying to trick me?
Yeah. I definitely felt that way.
Maybe I'm going to miss a step and they'll be like, you didn't do this.
Yes. Yeah. Now you're out of luck.
Yeah. So that's why I felt like, after I talked to that initial person, everything was done on the app, but that was so important. That clarity was so important to me in terms of the process, and also feeling safe that I chose the right insurance agent.
So now that so I think that's really a great story to highlight kind of the two things in society now. There's a lot of things that we may not know offhand, and we have a lot of distrust. So we do a lot of follow up and walk through the steps, and we constantly keep asking. But it's really a time management and what do I want to say? Well, it's really follow up is the thing, and there's a lot of things like that. A great analogy to that is the difference when I went to college and when my daughter went to college. When I went to college, what you would do to get your classes is you would go to the basketball stadium. I went to UT my first year, and you had a time slot when you could come in, and you ran from table to table to sign up for classes, and you hoped that you had to plan out like, okay, I need calculus because I got to get it this semester so I can take the next, and you had to shoot over there before it got filled out and sign up and so forth and go through. And then you sat with an advisor to say, hey, this is what I've taken. Can I win? Can I actually get my degree? Is this all going to work out and so forth? My daughter comes to me one day and says, hey, and this is where I think it's much more complex now, not just an artist. She says, hey, I was looking online and I saw the NYU TikToks and they said, I can do this. And I'm like, who the hell's that person? Like, what? And she's like, oh no, there's like 16 different, and she's citing all these sources, that social media and random blogs and so forth, says you can do this. I'm like, no, you have to go get it from the word of the administration that this is going to work, because they don't count. And that's complex. That's complexity.
Oh yeah,
Right.
just the differing signals and messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
Feeling like you're doing the right thing because you're hearing all these voices and signals. You're questioning your decisions constantly,
Mm-hmm.
I just remembered, another thing that cavemen didn't have to deal with, and that is settings and preferences. I'm always having to open it, my settings, change my
And
settings.
two-factor authentication. They didn't do that.
I'm with you on that one.
Oh my God.
That's the nail in the coffin.
Can you
there.
imagine that? Like, you're dragging your spouse home by their hair. You've got a club in one hand. You get to your door and it says, hey, I've just sent a smoke signal to Bob, who's going to let you in.
And the saber-tooth's on your trail.
Yeah, right. Not cool.
I can use some of that.
I wonder, it would be really fun to see Flintstones rebooted, because Flintstones, the whole thing about the Flintstones is they had all the current technology, but it was done with an animal or done with rocks or whatever. I would love to see what is the Flintstone equivalent of social media.
The Jetsons?
That'd be a really fun skit, actually.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about y'all? What experiences have y'all had as far as navigating insurance, the complexities of it?
Ooh. I don't like insurance. When I ran my business, there's all these general liability, and when I had another business called Mission Recycle, where it was commercial recycling. We'd go into companies and set up bins and where they would collect recyclables, and we'd go and collect those every week or every week, once a month, whatever. Right. But figuring out what our driver, the insurance they needed, and the stuff to operate. I mean, it was just always changing. One person to the next would tell you different information. Like, I don't know. And then you got life insurance and.
Yeah. An audit company, when you're a vendor for somebody, and I think, local business, if you do any kind of corporate work or stuff like that, or you do events on site, housing, if you're in the real estate business, clearly it can get very complicated. Medical, insurance, all those can get really complicated. But when you combine things like an audit group, and they come in and it's like they don't even understand what you're saying. We have we're a vendor for, I don't know that I can say their name, but it's a very popular clothing line, and we manufacture some labels and stuff for them. They came back and they kept saying they wanted us to have an insurance policy that specifically talked about intellectual property infringement. And it didn't fall under our general liability. So I'm going back and forth with HR, who manages our insurance stuff. We went to the insurance company, got the broker back. We're going back and forth and back and forth. And it turns out to get this coverage, which they wanted some ridiculous amount, was going to be, I don't know, $23,000 a year. And I'm like, The only intellectual property we will have is the stuff they give us, and it's stuff that is going to go on their clothing. So who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't even apply here, but cutting through all that red tape was just impossible. My catchphrase these days for technology, and this goes not only for social media, the internet, AI, even robots and everything else that we can do and how everybody is, I really think as Homo sapiens, as and apes running around the planet, the amount of technology we have, the only equivalent that you can really think of is it's like giving tasers to cats.
Sure.
There's no way that is going to end up well.
Yeah.
No.
You're going to have the most well-meaning cat.
Well, and
Not taste.
you can't become an expert at everything. You have to do what you do well, and then really figure out who your sources are, because you're gonna have to rely on those experts to help you.
Yeah, humans. If we looked at humans as like an RPG, we're a race of people. We're a species that put all of our points into charisma and cooperation.
So you got to help you, because some people may not know what an RPG is.
So, if you're playing an RPG video game, you have different.
What's an RPG?
An RPG is Final Fantasy or
No.
Dungeons and
What's
Dragons.
RPG actually stand for?
Role-playing game.
Okay, so you're role-playing, you're pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forget who our listeners are. So you're playing as someone else.
Right.
Now, now that I'm saying this, we will make this an episode, which is we're going to assess our character sheets as they exist.
I think we should create a whole game.
Well, yeah, we'll create.
That's our ambition.
We'll create an RPG of us.
Yeah.
I'll give you a precursor. So if we're saying on a scale from 1 to 10, agility for me is going to be a 4, but I'd say charisma is probably a 6, and maybe intelligence 5.5 or something like that. So there's areas that you've got the intelligence and strength and charisma and all that stuff. And humans, we don't have as big of muscles as the other apes, and we don't run as fast as cheetahs and all that stuff. But what we are good at is communicating with each other. That is the thing that allowed us to keep existing and not have to worry about polar bears hunting us.
Just like prairie dogs.
We're prairie dogs are definitely up there. But to your point, James, is that we kind of owe it to each other. If someone's an expert on something in this society, we need to impart that to other people. And I think when it comes to local business professionals, that's really what we're looking for. You're looking for someone who is going to be a modern professional who can guide them. We're not necessarily looking for experts, but we are looking for people that will give clarity to systems that are hard to understand.
And I love the way you guys have set this up, because I had a bunch of notes here and I've actually ignored all of these, because I think the two things that my takeaway from this, and I think it's something I need to reflect back in our customer service and the way I handle people and what I demand out of my services. Two things. One, check who's the authority so that you're getting good information. And that is something that resonates with me in particular, especially as I'm getting older and we're talking about medical stuff and where you're getting your information about vaccines and where are you getting your information about, the economy and so forth. All that is really, really important to check who your source is. And then two, a good source, once you've found a good source or a source that has the right information, the most beneficial source will turn complexity into a process, a process of execution, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So insurance is complex, but because you had a good broker, because you had somebody that just turned it into, Roger, this is what you need to do now. Roger, you still haven't done that. Roger, go follow up on this. Because you had somebody lay it out into those steps, it simply became something that I needed to do as opposed to being lost.
Yeah, we're all navigating for each other while we're all watching out for saber-tooth tigers while everyone else catches some Z's. The saber-tooth tiger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is exactly, I couldn't have said it better.